The wealthy Africa before colonization, the hidden truth. Before European colonization, Africa was not a land of darkness, poverty, or backwardness, as colonial propaganda would later claim. It was a continent of powerful kingdoms, vast trade networks, advanced civilizations, and immense wealth. From the gold-laden cities of Mali to the great stone structures of Zimbabwe, from the libraries of Timbuktu to the iron-smelting industries of Nigeria, Africa had flourishing economies, governance systems, and cultural achievements that rivaled or even surpassed many European nations. But why is this history rarely talked about? Why is Africa's pre-colonial greatness hidden while the narrative of colonization is told as if Europeans built Africa? This is the real story of Africa before European rule, the story that was erased, rewritten, and manipulated. The myth of a primitive Africa, a false narrative. For centuries, European colonizers spread the false idea that Africa was an uncivilized, primitive land in need of European civilization. But this was a deliberate lie to justify colonization. In reality, Africa was home to some of the greatest empires and civilizations in history. It had complex social and political systems, advanced architecture, large-scale trade, and sophisticated technologies. African civilizations were building cities when Europe was still in the Dark Ages. African gold and trade fueled the wealth of European and Middle Eastern economies. African universities and centers of learning were producing scholars before many European universities existed. So how did this narrative of Africa as uncivilized begin? It was created to justify the looting, enslavement, and colonization of African people. Let's uncover the truth about pre-colonial Africa's wealth and power. The great empires of Africa, a continent of power and wealth. Long before European colonization, Africa was home to vast and powerful empires that thrived through trade, military strength, and cultural development. The Mali Empire, 1235 to 1600, the Gold Kingdom. The Mali Empire was one of the richest empires in history, built on the trade of gold, salt, and ivory. Mansa Musa, the ruler of Mali, is considered the richest man in human history. His wealth was so great that when he traveled to Egypt on pilgrimage in 1324, he gave away so much gold that it caused inflation for years. Timbuktu, a major city of Mali, was a center of learning, home to libraries and universities that attracted scholars from across the Islamic world. The Songhai Empire, 1430 to 1591, the intellectual powerhouse. Following Mali, the Songhai Empire became the largest empire in West Africa, controlling major trade routes across the Sahara. It was a center of education, military power, and wealth. The famous University of Sankore in Timbuktu housed thousands of manuscripts on science, mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. The Kingdom of Congo, 1390 to 1914, the advanced Central African state. The Congo Kingdom was one of the most organized African states, with a central government, a taxation system, and a powerful military. The kingdom had diplomatic relations with Portugal and the Vatican, trading copper, ivory, and textiles. It had an advanced metallurgy industry, producing tools, weapons, and art. The Great Zimbabwe Kingdom, 1100 to 1450, the Stone Empire. Great Zimbabwe was an architectural marvel, with massive stone buildings, walls, and towers built without mortar. It was a major center for gold trade and commerce, connecting Africa with India, China, and the Middle East. The ruins of Great Zimbabwe stand as proof of Africa's lost architectural and engineering mastery. These are just a few examples. Africa had many other powerful states like the Benin Empire, the Ethiopian Empire, the Ashanti Kingdom, and the Zulu Kingdom. These civilizations thrived through trade, diplomacy, and warfare, long before Europeans arrived. Africa's trade and global influence, the economy before colonization. Before European interference, Africa was already deeply connected to global trade networks. West Africa was a major supplier of gold, salt, and ivory to North Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. East African city-states like Kilwa, Mombasa, and Zanzibar traded with India, China, and Persia, exporting gold, iron, spices, and textiles. The Swahili coast was a center of commerce, linking Africa with the Indian Ocean trade network. The Kingdom of Aksum, modern Ethiopia, was a powerful trading empire, connecting Africa with the Roman and Byzantine empires. Africa was not isolated. It was a vital part of the global economy. Advanced knowledge and innovation, Africa's hidden achievements. Contrary to colonial propaganda, African civilizations made great contributions to knowledge and technology. Medicine, African doctors performed complex surgeries, developed herbal medicines, and understood disease treatment. Mathematics, the Ishango bone, discovered in Congo, is one of the oldest mathematical artifacts in the world, dating back 20,000 years. Architecture, the pyramids of Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia show advanced engineering and architectural skills. Education, universities in Timbuktu, Egypt, and Sudan were major centers of learning, attracting scholars from across the world. These advancements were ignored or erased by colonial historians to promote the false idea that Africa had no civilization before European rule. Why was this history erased? So why don't we hear about these great African empires in mainstream history? Because colonial powers deliberately erased Africa's achievements to justify their conquest and exploitation. They destroyed African cities and libraries, erasing centuries of knowledge. They replaced African governance with European colonial rule, dismantling the continent's leadership. They rewrote history, portraying Africa as a primitive land that needed European intervention. But the truth is clear. Africa was powerful, wealthy, and advanced before colonization. Europe did not build Africa. It looted and dismantled Africa's civilizations. Africa was not a land of darkness before European arrival. It was a continent of thriving civilizations, economic power, and rich culture. This is the hidden history that was erased, but we are bringing it back. Coming up next, Part 2, The Scramble for Africa, how European nations met in Berlin and divided the continent without African consent, leading to centuries of colonization. Subscribe and press the bell icon so you don't miss it.